One of the most iconic techniques in music production is the art of flipping samples, more precise, soul samples from the 60s to the 80s. If you ever listen to legends like Kanye West, J Dilla, or even more recent ones like J Cole and Wilo Rodriguez, you've probably heard how they take old dusty soul records and turn them into something completely fresh. Now here's the crazy part. Sample flipping started out as a necessity in hip-hop. Producers didn't have big budgets to hire session musicians, but they would take what they had. But over time this method became an art form, and today I'm going to show you how to do it in 3 different techniques. We're going to start simple and gradually get more creative. So whether you're a beginner or making beats for a while, there's something in here for everyone. So let's hop right into it. Alright, first up we got our first technique, which I like to call the foundation. This is where it all began. Producers will grab a soul record, find the catches part, and loop it over and over again. This sounds simple, right? But don't let it fool you. This technique is timeless. Let me play you an example. So I made this soul sample, and honestly the vibe was already there. So I just took the sample, find the catches part, and looped it over and over again. This technique might sound basic, but it's the backbone of so many classic hip-hop beats. It's all about finding the right part of the sample that speaks to you and adding on top of it. This was the essence of all this sample flipping, keeping it simple but impactful. So for my beat right here, I took the sample as it is and just added some drums to it. So now let's get into the second technique, where things get a little bit more creative. This is where we dive into that chipmunk soul sound that Kanye West made famous. And it's also something that you hear a lot in Wilo Rodriguez music. I'm talking to speeding up and pitching up soul samples. This wasn't just a style of choice, it started as a way to stretch the sample to make it fit better into the beat's timing. But what producers realized was that this technique gave the sample a completely new energy. It made the vocal sound like something special. Let me show you what I mean. So here's another sample I made. So now let's speed this beat up from 120 to 162 and let's pitch it up by 3 semitones. Crazy, right? That chipmunk effect gives it that nostalgic yet futuristic feel. Now let's add some drums to it and see what we got. There it is, a perfect example of how you can take something old and flip it into something completely new and fresh while keeping that soulful impact. This is what gave early 2000s hip-hop its unique sound and why it still works today. Alright, quick break before we get into the third technique. All the soul samples I'm using in this video are from my original loop kit made completely from scratch. These samples are perfect for flipping them as you have seen here. This kit includes all the original samples I made, the sped up and pitched up version, and the matching bass midis, so your 808 will never be off key again. Just drag and drop your sample into the playlist, find the matching bass midis, and you're good to go. And because you're watching this video, I'm giving away a free copy of this loop kit to the first person who uses the code SOULFLIP at checkout. So click the link in the description down below, download the loop kit and start cooking. But if you don't want to grab the full kit just yet, no worries. You can always download a free version of the kit and test out the samples before committing. That link is also in the description down below. Now, this is where the magic really happens. This is for those who want to take their flipping game into the next level, by chopping and rearranging the sample. Back in the day, when producers like J Dilla and J Cole started chopping up samples, it changed the game completely. No longer were they just looping parts of a record, they were rearranging it like a puzzle and creating entirely new patterns. And for this, I'm using a sample from the Delphonics. Unfortunately, I can't play the original record due to copyright problems, but just search it up on YouTube. First, just like in our second technique, I took the sample, sped it up and pitched it up by a few semitones. Afterwards, I put the sample into fruit slicer and chopped it up and rearranged the pattern so that we got something entirely fresh. Notice how chopping up samples can create entirely new rhythms. You are no longer bound by the original structure of the sample. This is the evolution of flipping samples. It went from looping to chopping, and that gave producers a whole new world of creative freedom. And now that we got our chops, we're just gonna layer some hard drums on top of it. And there you go, a completely different vibe and all from old soul samples. This is the final technique where you got the freedom to experiment and make your own patterns. And that's how you flip old soul samples with 3 different techniques. Learning how to flip samples will take your production to the next level, because you will know what section of a melody fits well with some drums. Let me know in the comments down below which technique you're using the most. Don't forget to smash that like button if you learned something new, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other video. If you want to know how I made this last beat right here, just wait a bit and the video will appear in the end card. If you want to know how I make my own soul samples and flip them into something great, just look up my profile and you'll see a lot of soul samples tutorials there. Thanks for watching, and let's see each other in the next one. Bye.